I'm back today with another book, and I'm going to try to convince you to read it in at least a minute or 2 minutes, however your attention span works. Anyway, today's book is 7 Days in June by Tia Williams, and my goodness, I'm going to start by saying it took me a minute to enjoy or to learn how to enjoy slowburn romance books, because I just started reading romance books really quite recently, and I thought I wanted the quick, oh my gosh, they meet, they fall in love, they whatever. But this was my first slow burn. And on reading the book initially, I'm like, this is boring, I don't really like it. But I had to reflect and kind of like summarize the book, and I'm like, okay, makes a lot of sense. So this book follows Eva, who is an author, and she writes like fantasy and romance and so like Vampire Diary type things, right? She's an author, and basically she was in love with someone in high school, and they both came from similar backgrounds. Eva being someone who was from a single mother, and her mother basically had to hop from, to different men who weren't really like the best kind of men to basically keep the bills and the rent and everything and take care of a child. And the other guy, he was in the system, and the way the system works, like most people would know, is you get to a certain age and they kind of kick you out to fend for yourself. So they both had some similar connection, and he was dabbling in some things that wasn't really legal, and she was swayed into it, not persuaded, but like, with consent and everything, and they kind of have this bond and longing for each other. This was in high school. Something happens a particular night and they get separated. This was in high school. Years have gone by. Eva is a mother now. The father's not in the picture, and he's an author as well, but he writes on like discrimination and justice in society, and he's a very hands-in type of guy. So Eva is a very reachable author. She has like fan clubs and like Facebook, like when you like, I think we all had this phase where you read like what's it called? What do you call it when you make up like the ending of a book? It's called fan fiction. There we go. So she has a group. She's very connected and everything. But the other guy, I forget his name. He's not reachable. He's on social media, but people love his books, right? And he's a teacher currently over the summer, teaching students and trying to like go to the actual schools where people don't really give a shit about, the students, and he's trying to tell them like, look, make something of yourself. That's the premise of the characters. Now, there's like a book con, I think that's what it's called, and they're both talking about their books. Eva's book is being picked up for a movie. And there's something very interesting going on with that, where the producer or the director wants to use white people instead of black people who the books are based on. Now, this is where we get to the nitty-gritty. We realized through this book con that Eva's protagonist, the main guy in the book, she had been writing it based off of the guy. And the guy as well had been writing his own character or characters based off the girl. And we don't get to know to like the book con where they're talking about the books so passionately. And because they're there together for the first time, what we probably think is years, the passion is just burning again. And they're both talking about it, and they peep and they realize like, oh wow, this is about me. They get to talking everything. Now, the reason why I said I didn't understand the slow burn is because you've met after what is how many months? You would think just get to it, get it on properly. No. She has a daughter, so obviously she has to be responsible. And he's only in town, I think New York, for a particular amount of time. And obviously, like I said, he has responsibilities like students and like people he's mentoring and everything. So he has to be, gone later. And they're trying to see if they can do the right thing. Do they want to get back together? Do they want to see how this goes? Again, don't forget she has a daughter. That really plays into the story. And, over the 7 days, we basically just go through this book. It's not as slow as I'm saying it is. I'm just being dramatic because I never really knew or know how to enjoy a very slow burn. I'm a very quick person. I think that's like my default. But throughout the 7 days, you are just like, oh my gosh, what is going on? How can we get to the ending? And I'm just going to say there's no spoilers anymore. Well, I never really give any spoilers. I'm trying to lean into reading the book, okay? But the ending of the book was so satisfying because you would think you want something to happen. But what happens in the book, this was literally me. I'm like, you know what? Fair. Reasonable. Why not? It's like, yeah, I'm not going to say anything, anything else. But that's basically the premise of the book. Now, I'm going to give my 2 cents that no one asked for, but I kind of felt a bit disconnected reading this book because I felt like, okay, if I've moved on with my life from someone I met, I'm thinking of someone I was in love with in boarding school, in high school, and I'm like, if I met him now, how would I feel? Would I want to feel to ignite this thing? If it's, because years have gone by, you've probably met different people, you've grown as a person, hopefully. What is that going to be like? And that's actually something I've always thought about. It's like, if nothing was with anyone else and I meet someone I had a flame with back in the day, how would that come about? Just think about that going into this book. Think of that one person. Pick up this book, 7 Days in June. It's really good. And I must admit as well, I'm someone who really enjoys character and world building. And it's really interesting and amazing, I must say, as an author. Well, I'm not an author, but like when you can write a book and you don't really like, you can focus on the main characters, but there are lots of other characters where it's like, oh my gosh, what's happening with you? How was that date you went for? Or like, what's going on in your life? That's how this book goes, because she has her daughter, she has like her publicist, her friends, and they also have interesting lives. It doesn't overshadow the main characters. It was like, you're reading a chapter and you just like, I remember I was reading a particular chapter, like, oh my gosh, what happened? I don't know, to the daughter when she was doing this, that, the third, because she has her own life as well. The daughter really steals the show in this book because she's really interesting. So, to summarize, long lost lovers who meet themselves at a book con and realize that their bestseller novels have been love letters to each other over the decade or over the years. And now, over 7 days that they are trying to reignite their long lost love. You're going to be rooting for, I think they're like going to be two separate people reading these books. You're going to root for someone else and you're going to hate someone else, and that's just how it's going to work. But it's really, really interesting because there is no side to pick. So I'm done rambling now. I hope I've been able to convince you to pick up this book, 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. It's, how many pages? It's really not that long in my personal opinion. It's like, 320 pages. So it's a relatively quick read, depending on how you read. And yeah, that's it for now. Enjoy, and if you don't, well, I guess come back and cuss me out and let me know why you didn't enjoy. Let's talk about it,